Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another math review page. Shout out first to followers Ashley T and Nicholas G for leaving a comment on the last video. Yeah, you guys get a free 100 on a practice assignment. So good to you guys. If the rest of you want free hundreds on practice assignments, make sure to leave good, positive, school appropriate comments at the end of these videos. And then actually watch these videos because, get a good grade. All right, number one, write the trig ratio needed to solve this problem. Don't have to solve. So we're pretty much going to go all the way except to the actual answer part. So first, from your angle of 42, you have opposite, you have hypotenuse, and that's adjacent. So the two sides that have information are your adjacent and hypotenuse. That's going to give you cosine. So you have cosine 42 degrees equals adjacent x over hypotenuse 38. So that's the ratio you need. You can leave it like that possibly. Also, just so you know, they might have you look for the answer where it's about to be solved, which means if you multiply the 38 to both sides, you get something that looks like that. So just be aware of that. Number two, same thing, write the trig ratio needed, but this time we're looking for the angle. So from x, that's opposite, that's hypotenuse, sorry. And that's adjacent. So opposite and hypotenuse have our information. Our angle is x, so when we set this up, this is sine x equals opposite over hypotenuse. And then I'm also going to go ahead and write it in the inverse form. This is when you use the sign with a little -1. So, again, these are how you initially set it up. This is how you go to solve it. Both of them are there for you. Rest of the problems we're actually going to solve and get answers. So, sorry about that. So number three, what is the measure of angle A to the nearest degree? So 5 is opposite. That's hypotenuse. That's adjacent. We have opposite and adjacent, which is going to give us tangent. So tangent x equals opposite 5 over adjacent 12. The inverse is written tangent -1, 5 over 12 equals x. Put that into your calculator, you get 22.620. And it does say to the nearest degree, so if it's multiple choice, you'll probably have an option, or if it's a free response, go ahead and show the work to get this, but then put the 23 as the nearest degree actual answer. Okay? Number 4, find the value of h to the nearest hundredth. So from the angle you start, opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. This time our opposite and hypotenuse have information. That's sine. Sine of 27 degrees equals the opposite h over the hypotenuse 6. This is a simple times 6 to both sides. And you're going to get 2.724. And that's your height. Okay. Moving right along, number 5, find the value of x. From the 37 degree angle, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Opposite and adjacent have our information. So that's tangent 37 equals opposite x over adjacent 12. Simply multiply the 12 to both sides. And 12 times the tangent of 37 is 9.043. All right, number 6, a truck is driving up a road at a 23-degree incline. The road is 30 meters long. How high above the ground level does the truck end up at the end of the drive? So again, I mean, they put in a word problem, but in the end, it's just trig. So from our 23-degree angle, excuse me, sorry, you have opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Hypotenuse and opposite have information. Again, that's sine. Sine of 23 equals the opposite x over the adjacent, opposite x over the hypotenuse 30, excuse me. You're going to multiply the 30 to both sides. And that cancels. And 30 times sine of 23 equals 11.722. All right. Number 7. You lean a 20-foot ladder against the wall. If the ladder makes an angle of 50 degrees with the ground, how far away from the wall is the base? So questions like this, very important to read them, because sometimes they give you, a situation we've seen before. The ladder on the wall is something we've seen fairly often, but it's what they're asking for that might be a little bit different. So basically sets up like this. This being the hypotenuse being your ladder, so that's 20 feet. The angle with the ground is 50 degrees. Now, it's not how high up the wall, it's how far away from the wall is the base. They're looking for that. Okay, so that's opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Adjacent and hypotenuse have our information this time. That's going to be cosine. So we have cosine 50 equals adjacent x over hypotenuse 20. Times 20 to both sides. 20 times the cosine of 50 is going to give you 12.856. Okay. And it says hundredth. If it's a free response, I'll probably give it to you. I by default, we've been doing it to the thousandths. It would be 12.86 if you did it to the hundredths. As long as you show your work and your answer is accurate, if the decimal's off a bit, I won't make a big deal of it. Number 8, find the height of the kite. So from 55 degrees, you have opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. The kite's another problem we see a lot, right? Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. Sine of 55 equals opposite x over hypotenuse 85 times 85 to both sides. 85 times sine 55 is going to give you 69.628. All right, so I hope you're good on the front page. Let's go to page 2. All right, and before we get on with page 2, I want to take some time for our sponsors. Office Depot number 2 pencils, the official pencils of Mr. Rodriguez's review videos, and also the pencils y'all might want to make sure you have for tomorrow's Scantron test. Always available in the little metal cup on Mr. Rodriguez's desk. All right, thank you for taking time for our sponsors. Let's get on to number 9. The mascot holds the end of a kite string 4 feet above the ground. The string makes an angle of elevation of 38 degrees. If 55 feet of string are let out, how high off the ground is the kite? So we actually had this problem on the word problem assignment from the day before. So the kite problems always kind of wind up like this. The hypotenuse is the kite string. Here's the angle with the ground. That's how high off, except this time you have that mascot holding it 4 feet off the ground. So you're going to add 4 to your final answer. From 38, you have opposite. That's hypotenuse. That's adjacent. Opposite and hypotenuse have information. So sine 38 equals opposite x over hypotenuse 55. 55 times sine 38 equals 33.861. Yeah, 33.861. And then to add the 4 feet to the ground, you should wind up with 37.861. Just add the 4 at the end. Don't try to put it into the trig problem itself. 10. A 20-foot ladder is leaning against the house. So again, another ladder problem. The base of the ladder is 4 feet away. What angle does the ladder make with the ground? So again, asking a different question on this problem, same setup. So from the angle theta, that's that Greek letter we talked about. This is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent. So we have adjacent and hypotenuse with our information. That's cosine. You're going to have cosine theta. Again, theta is just a variable. It's like x. Doesn't matter. If you want to put x there, in fact, wouldn't change anything in the world. It equals the adjacent 4 over the hypotenuse 20. You're going to rewrite this as the inverse. Cosine negative 1. 4 over 20 goes here, equals x. All right, sorry, I just got interrupted for some official teacher business. So in real time, about 10 minutes just passed. In your time, that was but seconds. Time travel. By the way, the inverse cosine of 4 over 20 should give you 78.463. Oh, that looks like eyes. Try that again, 6, 3. And that is technically degrees, so. All right, so moving on. An observer at the top tower spots a rock below a 38-degree angle of depression. The tower is 25 meters high. How far away is the rock? The rock, the actual rock, not the movie star. So with angle of depression, like we talked about in class, a lot of times that angle doesn't show up in the same triangle with the measurements. So what you want to do is make a rectangle. You have 25 and 25 on both sides, now x and x. So that way, where the 38 is, you can get the measurements over there as well. So now that's opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Opposite and adjacent give you tangent. Tangent of 38 equals opposite 25 over adjacent x. These take 2 steps, not 1 like most of our problems. Times x to both sides. X times tangent 38 equals 25. That's after step 1. Step 2 is to divide by the tangent of 38. And so x will equal what you get when you divide 25 by tangent of 38, which if you put into your calculator is 31.9985, I believe, which technically rounds to 31.999. If you show all that work and then put 32, you know, I'll be okay with that because of the rounding, but you need to show the work. That's the key there. Number 12, a tree casts a shadow 50 foot long. The the angle from the ground to the top of the tree is 60 degrees. So 50 shadow, 60 degrees. What's the height of the tree? So from that 60 degrees, that's opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. Let me try that with the black pen. Tangent, 60 degrees equals opposite x over adjacent 50. You're going to multiply the 50 to both sides. And 50 times tangent 60 is 86.602. Well, 603 if you round it off. All right, and that's the height of the tree. Yeah, that's right. 13, a ship sights, say that fast. A ship sights a submarine at an angle of depression of 31 degrees. What is the depth of the submarine? Always pay close attention to the problems, because in this one, the 400 is actually the diagonal right there. They want to know how far the submarine is. You technically do have the measurements you need in the triangle already. From 31, that's opposite. That's adjacent. That's your hypotenuse. So adjacent does not have anything. Hypotenuse and opposite do. And you're going to have sine 31 equals opposite x over hypotenuse 400. 400 times sine 31 is 206.015, excuse me. $14, almost done. A stair has an angle of elevation of 28 degrees, covers a total distance of 17 feet to the nearest foot. What is the height? What is the vertical height covered by the staircase? From the 28 degrees, you have opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. You have opposite and hypotenuse. That's sine. Sine of 28 degrees equals opposite h over hypotenuse 17. Multiply 17 to both sides. 17 times sine of 28 is 7.981. Okay. All right, 15, find the area of the triangle. Area equals 1/2 base times height. So in a triangle, in the right triangle, you can always use that as your base, that as your height, right? Where the right angle is. It could work either way, honestly. You could lay the 24 on the ground, be your base and your height, but they're going to be multiplied and you take half. So for that formula, we have a height. We don't have a base. So we've done these problems before, but first things first, find the x, the b in this case. So from 61, you have opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Opposite and adjacent have your information, so we're going to start tan 61 equals 24 opposite over b, the adjacent. I'm going to use b so we can differentiate base and height. So 2 steps here, times b, cancel, cancel. B times tangent 61 equals 24. Step 2, divide by tangent 61. And 24 divided by tangent 61 is 13.303. Not the final answer, don't forget. So now, with that information, you got to plug that into the area formula. So area equals, I'll do 0.5, 1/2, times 24, times 13.304. I realize I didn't write that correctly up by B, 303. So that's going to give you 159.636. All right, on the bottom, find the area of the rectangle. Kind of a similar idea, but we have neither base times height. And please remember that area of a rectangle is just base times height, not 1/2. Well, that was something. Just got interrupted again, but I'll tell you that story another day. All right, so we have to find both. So we're going to set up two problems here. Let me see if I can kind of create some space in here. So first, let's talk about setting up a problem for the height. So from 64, that's opposite, that's adjacent. Let's see. And that's hypotenuse. So let's start with the height, adjacent to hypotenuse. That's going to give us cosine. So cosine 64 degrees equals adjacent h over hypotenuse 81. Very simply, just 81 times cosine 64 equals h. So 81 times cosine 64 equals 35.508. All right, so that's the base. I'm sorry, that's the height, excuse me. Now let's get the base. So for the base, we have opposite and hypotenuse, which is going to be sine. So sine 64 equals opposite b over 81. So you'll notice the problems are very similar with the numbers. It's just, one's cosine, one's sine. But that's going to make them different lengths, obviously. So this one, 81 times sine 64, is going to give us 72.802. Now, it's real important to show your work on these because some people want to leave the decimals as they are in the calculator and multiply those two, and that's fine. Or if you round it off, it's obviously going to change the answer. So I'm going to move to red here on this last one. You multiply 35.508 times 72.802, no halves. Okay? If you do it with the rounded off decimals, that's what I'm going to do, just because of the way I set mine up. You get, let's see, 72.802. You get 2,585.05. All right. So I hope those videos were helpful. Don't forget to leave a friendly comment. Get your free zero. Yeah, get a free 0. Get a free 100 on a practice grade, huh? Leave them positive, school appropriate. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to study. Rodriguez out.